morning, everyone. I call to order this 15th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for calendar year 2012 and ask that you all join us here this morning in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first agenda item here this morning is the approval of the minutes of the July 19th public meeting. And I believe Vice Chairman Coleman, you are the editor of the minutes.
I am indeed, Chairman. Thank you. I reviewed the minutes of the July 19, 2012 public meeting and move that they be approved as submitted.
Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the minutes of the July 19th meeting are approved as submitted. And it's a pleasure to welcome to the podium and begin the public meeting here this morning Ms. Cheryl Walker-Davis. Good morning, Cheryl.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
May I please this honorable commission on behalf of your various offices and bureaus, we present for your consideration and disposition the following agenda items commencing this morning with matters on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, transportation items. It is recommended in omnibus fashion that the Commission adopt all items appearing on pages 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 through and including the rate increase request of Anthony Bader, TA BNT Movers.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Director of Administration, commencing on page 6, it should be noted that the first item pertaining to the contractor selection with regard to the request for proposal to hire an information management system for gas safety inspections has been postponed until September the 13th. It is recommended that the Commission adopt the next 3 items pertaining to general assessments upon public utilities for the Office of Consumer Advocate, the Office of Small Business Advocate, and Public Utility Commission.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Bureau of Audits, in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the items appearing on pages 7, 8, and 9, through and including the People's Natural Gas Company Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan agenda item.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the items appearing on pages 10, 11, 12, and the first item at the top of page 13 pertaining to T-Mobile's petition for reconsideration in the proceeding involving Consolidated Communications Enterprise Services versus Omnipoint Communications Inc.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
With regard to Thomas Greco versus Pennsylvania American Water Company, there is your motion, Mr. Chairman, as well as the statement of Commissioner Gardner.
I'd like to have my motion entered into the record as it's read in its entirety. Before us this morning for disposition is the proposed opinion and order that reverses the initial decision of Administrative Law Judge Ember Genevieve in the Thomas Greco building complaint versus Pennsylvania American Water Company, which is a complaint that involves imposing a fine on PAWC for unreasonable service. On February 14th, the complainant, a commercial landlord, filed a formal complaint against Pennsylvania American Water Company, alleging that his water service was improperly turned off. The initial decision dismissed the complaint and found that the imposition of a civil penalty was not warranted because Pennsylvania American Water Company provided reasonable service. Exceptions and reply exceptions were subsequently filed on this case. While the record in this case shows that the complainant's domestic water service was improperly disconnected for approximately a 4-hour period, I simply cannot overlook the actions of the complainant that contributed to this odd and unfortunate event. Here, the complainant deliberately became delinquent on his fire service account, thus requiring Pennsylvania American Water Company technician to visit the property to shut off the service for non-payment, rather than requesting that the service be discontinued in a routine and expected fashion. The Pennsylvania American Water Company technician, upon arrival at the property, found that the fire protection valve was already shut off and sealed without Pennsylvania American Water's knowledge or consent. Since the fire service device was already disconnected, the technician disconnected the other domestic water meter in error. Because the Pennsylvania American Water technician had 2 termination service orders, he erroneously concluded that he was to shut off the valve for domestic service as well. After discovering the mistake, the domestic service was restored within a 4-hour period. Pennsylvania American Water Company has since implemented a verification process to foreclose this type of error from happening again. Now, given the unusual circumstances in this case and the fact that there was a 4-hour disruption in service, I agree with the ALJ Janavir's initial decision and do not feel a civil penalty is warranted. Therefore, this morning I move that the Office of Special Assistance shall revise an opinion in order consistent with this motion.
Second.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Gardner for purposes of his statement. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will respectfully disagree with the majority's position that the Office of Special Assistance recommendation of a $250 penalty is unwarranted. I do not agree with the precedent of shifting blame to the customer for company errors during the termination process. In his complaint, Mr. Greco alleged that Pennsylvania American Water Company improperly terminated domestic water service to his building that houses 4 residential apartments, state government agency offices, and a nightclub. Mr. Greco did stop paying the fire services bill. Indeed, since Mr. Greco stopped paying the fire service bill, PAWC sent a technician to terminate service to that meter. Upon arrival, the technician found the fire service meter already shut off, but the domestic service to the building is still available. Instead of verifying the service order, the technician proceeded to erroneously shut off the domestic water supply. While Pennsylvania American Water corrected the error 4 hours later, however, the government offices had closed early because there was no domestic water service. The ALJ found that Pennsylvania American Water Company made an error in terminating water service to the building. However, the ALJ also found Mr. Greco was equally responsible because of his delinquency in paying for the water service. The ALJ found that the error may not have occurred at all had Mr. Greco contacted Pennsylvania American Water to request cancellation of the service. I find the ALJ statement to be speculative at best. Lack of payment on the customer's part does not excuse careless work on the utilities part. Review of the record supported the conclusion that the error occurred because the lack of due diligence exercised by the field technician. In fact, the field technician's failure to call the company to verify his findings and ask about shutting down the other service meter does not meet the reasonable service standard. Pennsylvania American Water has accepted responsibility for the error and has since taken corrective action. I commend the company's rapid response to this situation. I agree that the Office of Special Assistance recommendation that a $250 civil penalty should be imposed upon Pennsylvania American Water Company. I continue to support the principle that all our jurisdictional utilities, fixed and transportation, are responsible for ensuring that they and their employees are in compliance with Commission regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. Any further discussion? Any objections? Noting the dissent of Commissioner Gardner, the motion passes 4-1. And Commissioner Gardner, I think you need to take a glass of water.
On the top of page 14, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the first item appearing there on the Greco Phoenix Estates versus CP Electric Utilities Corp.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff recommendation pertaining to Cat Lions versus Emelec. We should note, however, that the recommendation has been slightly revised and should read that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order which grants the exceptions in part and modifies the ALJ's initial decision.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Chairman, I wish to be recorded as voting no. This case turns on a credibility issue of the witness, and I'm going to adopt the ALJ Corbett's initial decision.
So noted. Any further discussion? Noting the objection of Commissioner Cawley, the vote is 4-1.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt the two items appearing on page 15 as well as the first item appearing on page 16.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It should be noted that Victor Nixon versus Western Power Company has been postponed until public meeting of September the 13th. Continuing in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the item appearing on page 17 as well as all items appearing on pages 18, 19, 20, and 21, through and including the joint petition for interconnection agreement between T-Mobile USA Inc. and Sugar Valley Telephone.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Turning now to matters on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services in omnibus fashion, we recommend the adoption of all items appearing on pages 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29, through and including the application of Pacific South Telecom Inc.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Law Bureau, we recommend the adoption of all items appearing on page 30, except the third item pertaining to the People Energy Company's time vendor selection for time of use service that has been postponed until public meeting on September the 13th. The omnibus continues with all items on page 31 through and including the petition of People's TWP LLC.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Office of Administrative Law Judge, with regard to the first item, that being Connie Darlene Mullins versus Philadelphia Gas Works, there is the motion of Commissioner Gardner.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Gardner for purposes of this motion. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like for my motion to be entered into the record as if read in its entirety. This is a case of a squatter at an unoccupied house in Douglas Service. The complainant in this case is the owner of the house. She asserted in her complaint that she should not be responsible for a $6,000 plus bill of theft of service that occurred at the property during a time period when she was not living in the house. Based on the evidence, the ALJ found that the complainant should not have been charged for the gas service at the service address after September 2008, and that PGW, Philadelphia Gas Works, was aware that the gas should have been turned off in September of 2008. The complainant also asked that Philadelphia Gas Works be fined because of a false statement made against her, but the ALJ denied this relief. I agree with the ALJ's decision to fine the complainant with regard to the bill. I also agree that the imposition of a penalty is not appropriate in this case. However, I do object to the ALJ's conclusion that a civil penalty for Philadelphia Gas Works is not allowed. PGW's Philadelphia Gas Works status as a municipally owned utility does not negate the Commission's authority under the Public Utility Code to impose a penalty on Philadelphia Gas Works when appropriate. Therefore, I move that the initial decision be modified consistent with this motion, and that the Office of Special Assistance prepare an order and opinion consistent with this motion.
Second.
I'd also like to commend PGW for its implementation of a strong anti-theft program, as was noted in its management audit, that is also on today's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. We'll note that pause in your motion that tripped us up a little bit.
I will still second that motion.
Still seconded, subject to audit. The motion, any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0.
With regard to ALJ Bureau's initial decision in the proceeding involving the application of Empire Ambulance, there is your joint motion, Commissioner Gardner, along with Commissioner Whitmer.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Gardner for purposes of the presentation of the joint motion with Commissioner Whitmer. Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like for our motion to be entered into the record as if read in its entirety. In this proceeding, the ALJ dismissed the application due to the applicant's failure to comply with certain ALJ orders, specifically the order on motion for sanction and the pre-hearing order. Upon review of the record, it appears that the ALJ's order in this case were sent to the applicant's address incorrectly. While the zip code was correct, the city was not. Because of this error, we have no way of knowing if the documents ever reached the applicant. Accordingly, we recommend remanding this proceeding to the Office of Administrative Law Judge so that the proper service on the order on the motion for sanction and pre-hearing order can be provided to the applicant. Therefore, we move that the proceeding be remanded to the Office of Administrative Law Judge to properly serve the order on motion for sanction and the pre-hearing order, and that the Office of Special Assistance prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion.
I just wanted to make sure I provided the appropriate applause there for you, Commissioner Gardner. Second to that motion.
Any further discussion? Any more pauses? No objections. Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt ALJ Long's initial decision in the proceeding involving John and Tracy Knob versus West Penn Power.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt ALJ Pell's recommended decision with regard to the annual gas cost rate involving Philadelphia Gas Works, noting the statement of Commissioner Cawley.
So moved. Second. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Cawley for purposes of a statement. Commissioner Cawley.
Thank you, Chairman. As noted, this is the 2012 annual purchase gas tariff filing by Philadelphia Gas Works, and also the joint petition for settlement and the recommended decision of Administrative Judge Pell. The record in this proceeding establishes that lost and unaccounted for gas for the last 3 fiscal years has increased substantially from 3.7% in fiscal year 2008 and 9 to 4% in fiscal year 2009 and 10, and to 4.4% in fiscal year 2010 and 11. Such increase in lost and unaccounted for gas are reflected in purchased gas costs paid by customers that are higher than what they otherwise would be, since the losses are embedded in PGW's gas supply costs and also embedded in the retainage rates of transportation customers. I strongly recommend that PGW focus its efforts on reversing these negative trends and reducing these losses in order to avoid any potential future penalties for excess levels of lost and unaccounted for gas.
Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting the statement of Commissioner Cawley.
And on the discussion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the ALJ recommendations, the remaining ALJ recommendations on page 33 as well, as all of the recommendations appearing on page 34 through and including ALJ Salonga's recommended decision in the proceeding involving UGI's Inc. Electric Division reconciliation statement.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
That concludes the presentation of regular agenda items. Turning now to the carrying agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt OSA's recommendation with regard to Buffalo and Pittsburgh Railroad.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On page 2 of the carrying agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the first lever stocking gas company recommendation with regard to the exceptions to the initial decision.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
We recommend the adoption of the second leather stocking case, noting the following revised recommendation: that the commission adopt the proposed opinion and order that rejects the stipulation and the amended stipulation, denies the motion to consolidate, and refers the application to the Bureau of Technical Utility Services for modified procedure.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And it is recommended that the commission adopt the OSA recommendation pertaining to the petition for reconsideration in Rosemont Taxi.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Law Bureau, it is recommended that the commission adopt the Act 129 Energy Efficiency Program Phase 2 recommendation period at the bottom of page 3.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
At the top of page 4 of the carrying agenda, we recommend the adoption with regard to Act 129 Phase 2 Total Resource Cost Test for 2012. We recommend the adoption of the order there proposed.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And with regard, we recommend the adoption of the staff recommendation with regard to the passenger transportation within Allegheny County, pursuant to Act 61.
So moved. Second. Just simply like to recognize this morning John Herzog for his efforts in getting this together for us this morning on the implementation order for Act 61. And any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, that does conclude the presentation of the public meeting agenda items.
I believe there's no other items to come before the commission here this morning. Before we adjourn, we wish to take this opportunity to wish everybody a very safe and enjoyable Labor Day weekend. We're adjourned.